What's up, guys? It's me, Zachary Adams, but you can call me Zach. This comment has haunted me for the past week. I have lost sleep thinking about how to possibly construct a Lydian blues scale, and I hate to say that I don't think it can be done. However, by the end of this episode of Zach Does Music Theory, I hope to construct a more coherent theory of what the blues scale even is. Now, it's probably best to try to enumerate and classify each of the regular modes of the heptatonic or 7-note scale. However, we have already run into our first problem, and that is the blues scale at its core is a pentatonic scale, and the two missing notes accounted for are the tonics of what would be the Lydian and Locrian blues scales. Now, how we construct a blues scale in general is by starting with the modal scale, so the B flat major in this case. We subtract the fourth and the seventh because these two notes create the tritone, or that great dissonance, which, we've all watched Adam Neely's video about by now. And then that creates the B flat major pentatonic scale. And as jazz musicians, we think that doesn't sound quite good enough. It's got all the butter notes in it. We really want a source of tension that we can go to. And in the case of the B flat major blues, that note that we add is the augmented second or the minor third in this case. And that really is a point of tension which improvisers can go to and contrast with the harmony underneath and create tension in releases. So that would be the B flat major blues scale. And in the Ionian blues scale, which is what this would be, the blue note is the fairly consonant minor third. But if we were to go to the Aeolian blues scale, we find that the blue note is actually an augmented fourth, or a diminished fifth, rather. And this is where we run into our second problem. The Lydian scale distinguishes itself from Ionian by its augmented fourth, and the Locrian scale distinguishes itself from Phrygian by its diminished fifth. So what intervals could possibly serve as a point of tension greater than this? Lastly, the nail in the coffin for the Lydian and Locrian blues scales actually comes from my last video, on analyzing why the Mixolydian, Dorian, and Phrygian modes of the blues scale are not used frequently. I noted that no mode of the blues scale contains the notes which distinguishes it from its neighboring modes. For example, Mixolydian blues does not contain the characteristic minor seventh that would be a major seventh in Ionian, and it also doesn't have the major third, which contrasts with the minor third used in Dorian. Phrygian does not contain the famous flat 2, which distinguishes itself from Aeolian, but it also doesn't contain the perfect fifth, which would be an obvious point against a Phrygian scale being a Locrian scale, and so on. Therefore, not only would a Lydian blues scale have to lack the augmented fourth to distinguish itself from Ionian, it would also have to lack its first? Hear me out. So here is E flat Lydian, and here is E Locrian. If you were to continue the pattern, or rather, every note is the same except for the tonic, and if you were to continue the pattern of the circle of modes, from this left side, Locrian can be written as Lydian, but with a sharp first, and which is what E natural would be in this case. If you were to continue the pattern from the right side, the flat first relative to E Locrian would be added to E flat Lydian. And since naming scales by the tonic is somewhat arbitrary, I believe that this is a valid way to relate these two modes to each other. Therefore, any theoretical Lydian or Locrian blues scale would have to lack its tonic note. And this checks out with the fact that the tonic notes necessary to craft a Lydian or Locrian scale are the aforementioned 4th and 7th, which are absent in the major blues scale. And let me just go back to here. A Lydian blues, it would have to lack, well, it's already lacking the 4th, but it would also have to lack the E flat note in the key, in B flat major. The E flat Lydian blues scale would have to lack an E flat, which it's just absurd. I don't know how to get around it. I've made some attempts down here. This was before I really delved into the structure of a blues scale very deeply. But as you can tell, none of these really check all the boxes. Like, I don't know, man. If we go to the Locrian blues, that is what theoretically it would be, of course, minus the tonic note on either end. So it would really sound like... And there's no point of resolution because there's no tonic. Even if it's a fairly dissonant tonic with all of the other notes in the scale, it's still a point of resolution, and you just can't possibly have that in any Locrian blues scale. So those are all my failures. I wanted to share them with you. Thank you for the torture, Mr. Pastimes. I really appreciate the existential crisis which your comment gave me. I hope to have more in the future. This has been Zachary Adams. See you in the next video.